Temperature distribution over the Earth's surface is determined by many factors like latitude, altitude, the oceanicity and continentality. So in today's video we are going to talk about all these factors, and at the same time we are also going to discuss exactly how these you know different factors determine the horizontal distribution of temperature over the Earth's surface, because vertical distribution of temperature is different from the horizontal distribution of temperature. So first we will see the first factor that determines the temperature, horizontal distribution of temperature, is latitude. Latitude determines the horizontal distribution of temperature. That's why you may have actually studied that whenever you move away from the equator towards the pole, this is where the equator passes, and when you move away from equator towards the poles, then temperature keep on getting decreased, because of the fact that the sun almost throughout the year, sun remains almost overhead over the equator. So when sun is overhead over the equator throughout the year, then actually the dissipation of energy which takes place because of the transmission of this solar radiation through the atmosphere is less at the equator, because the sun is vertical in these areas. Because as you move away from the equator towards the pole, then these rays, that is incoming solar radiation, that these rays becomes inclined, and when they become inclined, then they have to travel more distance through the atmosphere, and when they travel more distance, then more amount of dissipation of energy takes place. That's why at the equator, when they are vertical, they have to travel a less distance, and consequently the amount of dissipation taking place in case of equator is less compared to the mm, area where the rays are inclined. So that's why generally the latitude determines the high the horizontal distribution of temperature. The lower the latitude, the higher will be the temperature in general. But the highest temperature has been recorded along the subtropical high pressure belt. You may have heard that the maximum temperature has been recorded in Al Azizia, which is located in the subtropical high pressure desert. We will discuss, because there are different factors why exactly this subtropical high pressure has a maximum highest temperature. So there are another factor that actually is responsible, but in general, when you move away from the equator towards the pole, then the temperature will keep on getting decreased. The second factor is altitude. Second factor is altitude. Altitude. Altitude also determines the temperature, because you may have studied that all those areas which are located which has a more height elevation, they have a cooler temperature despite the fact that they are situated at the equator. For example, if you see the eastern highland of Africa, this part here, Kenya and Tanzania, these are the two countries which are located on these highland areas. These areas has a less temperature compared to the low-lying area, because of the fact that the altitude, as you move you move up in the atmosphere, the temperature keep on decreasing at the rate of 6.5 degrees centigrade per kilometer. also known as normal lapse rate. So as you move up in the atmosphere, the temperature keep on decreasing. That is the reason why, despite having located at the equator, these area have less temperature compared to the low-lying area adjacent to these highlands. So altitude also determines the temperature. Then third factor is the continentality or oceanicity, or ocean oceanicity. The oceanicity determines the temperature because all those areas which are located in a coastal region has a less temperature compared to those areas which are located in the interior part. For example, the Mumbai has a less temperature compared to the areas which are located in the interior part of the country on the same latitude. This is because of the fact that the water actually is responsible, these oceans are responsible for making the climate of this area much more moderate compared to those areas which are located in the interior continental part. Why? Because the first reason is that the water has a high high specific heat. That means that water get heated very gradually, and it also cools down also very gradually. So that's why these the temperature of these areas remain moderate. The second factor is that during the mm, during the daytime, actually this a lot of winds actually blows from the ocean towards the continent, making the climate of this area much more moderate. This type of wind is known as sea breeze, so that's why they keep moving from the ocean towards the continent, uh, making the area of these areas, making the climate of this area much more moderate compared to the interior part, because these winds will not be able to reach to this interior part. So that is how exactly winds these area have a less temperature. The all those areas which are situated in the interior part of continent, they have a more uh, temperature range, because during the summertime their temperature uh, goes up very high, and in the winter season also they have a very less temperature. That's why their annual temperature range is very high compared to these areas which are located on the coast, because the uh, land actually has a less specific heat. It means that it may get heated very fast, or it may get heated also very, it may get cooled down also very fast. So that is the reason why the continentality and oceanicity also determines the temperature. Then you have a currents. Currents are another factor which determines the temperature of an area. That's why you may have observed that in the Northern America, this part of Northeastern America has a much more temperature compared to the this side of the North America, because of the fact that this one warm current, which is known as Gulf Stream, actually moves along this eastern part of the continent. So that's why the area of this temperature is much more than the area than the area you know having located on the same latitude. in the interior part. So that is how exactly these currents also determines the temperature. Then some mountain barriers also determines the temperature distribution. For example, if Himalayas was not present, then India would have been suffering from the very severe cold wind coming from the Siberia. So these Himalayas basically prevent these winds from entering into the India, and that is why we have a much more warmer temperature compared to what we would have been if there was no Himalayas. So that is how actually these are the main factors that determines the horizontal distribution of temperature.